What's up, guys? This is Tim, and this is the Tim's Sports Talk. I am here to talk about my favorite team, the Washington Redskins NFL draft. It finished a couple days ago. I've looked into some of these players, especially the later ones that I never heard of, and I wanted to go through and give grades on each pick for us. And I got some notes here, and we're going to go through them, and it all starts with Chase Young at the number 2 pick overall. Not much needed to be said here. It was more of just a coronation. We knew it was coming. We knew what was happening. This is obviously an A-plus grade. He was the highest rated player in the draft. We can go to view all prospects, and boom, 7.37, number 1 player. We needed a defensive end, and this guy is going to be fantastic for us for the years to come. And pair him with Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Matt Ioannidis. This team's defensive line is going to be top 5 in the league, especially with Jack Del Rio. We know what happened last time he drafted this high. He got a guy named Khalil Mack for the Raiders, and that worked out pretty good. And Raiders went up to the number 2 defense the next year. Then they had he also did this once before that with Von Miller, and now Von Miller, obviously Super Bowl MVP, fantastic player, and then he brought the Broncos to the number 2 defense overall. So this defense should be looking really good for the next few years, and hopefully for longer than that if Jack Del Rio stays. All right. So that's Chase Young. I'm giving it an A-plus grade. I mean, you got the best player in the draft, number 2 overall. Fantastic. All right. So now we're moving on to a surprise pick. All right. Not many Redskins fans knew of this guy. Not many Redskins fans expected this because there was a lot of players that people wanted, a lot of other receivers. So when you first saw this pick, you were confused. You were like, Antonio Gibson. Okay. You see receiver there, and then Roger Goodell comes out and he says running back. Now you're even more confused. You're like, okay, so what is he? Which one is it? Is he a running back or is he a receiver? Do we really need running backs? Not really, but we need receivers. Our receivers are young. There's some talent there with Kelvin Harmon, Terry McLaurin, obviously, Steven Sims. Like, there's some talent there, but you could still see like, all right, we want a receiver. Okay, well, how big is this guy? All right, so you look here, you're like 6 foot, 228, and you're like, I mean, you kind of wanted a bigger receiver. You already have a bunch of smaller receivers that are quick, and so you're like, all right, I kind of wanted a bigger guy, but so you're like, what to do here? Like, okay, did we make a good pick or did we not? So you look into it, and your first thing you see is boom, 4.39 speed, blazing, fantastic. All right, so that's great, and he's running that at 228 pounds. I mean, that's fantastic speed, and he's got power. So whichever he plays, he's going to be good. All right. So then you start looking here, and then you're like, okay, let's look into some stats. All right, so we have this year, he only had 38 catches and 33 rushes. Not a whole lot of touches. Why? But what he did with those touches is big. All right, so every 6 plays he touched the ball was a touchdown. Legitimately. Every 6 offensive plays. I'm not including what he did on special teams, but that could be included. But what he just did on offense, every time, 6 times he touched the ball, it turned into a touchdown. He averaged 19.3 yards per catch. Fantastic. And he also averaged 11.2 yards per rush. Fantastic. Okay, so why did he get the ball so little when he's such a home run hitter? Like, he obviously should be getting the ball more. Well, you go start watching some Memphis games, which I watched a couple, just the offense to see what's going on. And Memphis had 5 of him. They had 5 stout receivers, running backs. Sometimes it was hard to pick out which one was him when they were just lined up from the side angle. Sometimes you had to watch it where it's like they circled him because it's like there's 5 of him. And they were all team numbers. So there was 14. He was 14. You had a 10, 11, a 15. The running back number 19, Gainwell, he was their big workhorse. And so the quarterback just had so many weapons to use and he spread the ball out, spread the ball around a lot. So Gibson was the second receiver, or second most yards for a receiver, and then he was the second most rushes for a running back. So he played both, and he had the most, and he did spread out wide, like so he did not just get all of his catches um, in the flats as in like receiver or running back catches. So he was actually out there running routes. So he was a legitimate receiver. And when you look at the game logs, you realize, oh wait, he didn't get carries until later. So he started as just a receiver, and they moved him to running back because they're like, okay, this guy's so explosive, we have to give him the ball. So they're like, okay, let's start giving him some carries. Well, he freaking obviously excelled at that, 11.2 yards per carry, and then finished that off with the end of the season against Cincinnati, another ranked opponent for their, I think it's the AAC division they're in, and he had 11 carries, 130 yards, and a touchdown, as well as a receiving touchdown in that game. So, just a beast. Lot of big plays in there. A lot of just 60, 70-yard plays, big. And then he also did return for them some, where he did have one return touchdown. So he had 8 receiving touchdowns and 4 rushing touchdowns, and a return touchdown off a kickoff return. Big plays, big plays. And I see him, he could be another scary Terry for us, another Terry McLaurin. And having 2 of those weapons is not a bad thing. And this guy could line up in the backfield where Terry is more a true receiver. This guy could line up in the backfield and have some, like I know Coach Rivera has talked about this some, where Scott Turner kind of wants to use him as a Christian McCaffrey potential back. Now, we have a lot of other running backs in there, so I don't think he's going to be on the field all the time. But when he is able to split, right, and I know Kyle Smith, the VP of personnel, he was talking about how you could have a 5-wide set, 5 receivers out there where he's one of them. All right, you get the small lineup on defense, and you can motion him in the backfield. Now he's a true running back behind the line of scrimmage that you can do all your run plays out of shotgun, or if your quarterback even goes under center. So he is going to be a fantastic dual threat for us. Many ways to use him. So when you start looking into all this, you're like, I mean, this is a great pick. Now we had some other needs and stuff, so I'm going to give this a B+ grade, but with potential that look back on this and you're like, he nailed it, right? Like, so it's a great pick. I love the pick. B+ is a good grade, and so there's nothing bad about that grade at all. So that is Antonio Gibson. Now we're going to go to the 4th round selection, which is left tackle Sadiq Charles. All right, 6'4", 322 pounds, running a 5.05, which that size, that's moving. That's a big boy that's hauling. So you're like, okay. Now, you look at this guy's talent, and he has talent, and he was a part of one of the best offensive lines. Joe Burrow had tons of time. Obviously, Joe Burrow broke a bunch of records throwing the ball, and he was a big part of that. He could run block, he could pass block, he can do it all. Now, why is he in the 4th? So you're like a 4th round left tackle. Because I also looked this up, I was just curious. Like, 9 out of the 13 best left tackles were drafted in the 1st round last year. One of them was in the 2nd, one of them was in the 3rd, one of them was in the 4th, and one of them was an undrafted, which was Jason Peters in Philly, which now he's not on the team anymore, and they have a 1st round left tackle. So most teams have 1st round left tackles. Left tackles come out of the 1st round. That just is how it is. So you're looking at this, and you're like, so why did he go so late? And the reason he went so late is because he got suspended for 6 games. There was some character concerns. Now, the coach and Kyle Smith seem like they have this. They think they have this figured out. I don't know why he was suspended. I've heard some things that may have been marijuana, but there could have been other things. Kyle Smith and Ron Rivera are just saying he made a mistake. What does that mean? I don't know. So I don't know what the character concerns are, but that is apparently why he fell to the 4th round. So he could be a good tackle for us. So, but I still think that next year we're going to have to draft a left tackle in the 1st round. And you're like, crap, well, this is kind of a waste of pick. Not really, because he played right tackle and he played guard in college. So he has versatility there on the line. So he could be potentially our starting left guard and a good one if we do draft a true left tackle next year well, he is a true left tackle, but a first round tackle, I should say, next year to actually replace Trent Williams. So I did give this pick an A because you had to do something to address the Trent Williams trade. And so you needed to pick a left tackle in this draft. You got one. You got a good one for the fourth round. A lot of people had him as a late first, second round pick, somewhere in there. And so you got a good, talented left tackle in the fourth round, and that pick deserves an A. So that's pretty much the extent here. So I think he may be a actual left guard for us in the future. That's where I see him. Maybe even a right tackle, because Morgan Moses has all those penalty problems. A lot of people like Morgan Moses, and a lot of Redskins fans like Morgan Moses. I'm not the biggest fan of Morgan Moses. As I said, tons of penalties. I see him get false start penalties are out of control, and a lot of times he false starts and he doesn't get called, so that's fortunate. But he false starts way too often, and I mean, he's a big guy, 6'8", like 330 pounds, and he does have some talent. I'm not saying he's bad, but I think a lot of Redskins fans overrate him when they start talking about our offensive line. So this guy might be our right tackle, might be our left guard in the future. I think we're going to go left tackle next year in the first. So an A pick here. All right, we're going to go on to the next fourth round pick. Now this guy is exciting, okay? This guy is 6'4", 223 pounds. Not extremely fast, 4'6", but this guy has hands. You watch his highlights and watch some video on him, and so many one-handed catches, gymnastic catches, and true catches. Like, this guy is catching the ball. It's not like body catches or anything. Like, he is all over the place. Huge catch radius, and very, very productive. He had 3 straight seasons of over 1,000 yards, 3 straight seasons of 10 touchdowns per season, and this last one he had 79 catches, 1,396 yards, and 10 TDs, like I said. So, fantastic numbers. Now, why is he a fourth-round pick? Fantastic ratings, like he's got good numbers, he's got good size. Well, he played at Liberty. Very small school, and since he played at Liberty, he did not get the recognition. I think this guy is easily a second-round pick, maybe a third round at worst, if he goes to a bigger school. But since he's Liberty, now that knocks you down, and now you're a fourth-round pick. And I think we got a steal here, and I think he could be what we were hoping that Josh Doxson was going to be. He's bigger than Josh Doxson. He's 2 inches taller. He actually has true hands. Josh Doxson did have circus catches like this guy, but I think that this guy could be what we were all hoping Josh Doxson could be. So, and 4'6" is not extremely fast. I think because Josh Doxson ran something similar, 4'5'8", 4'5'9" or something. I think like he was in this boat around 4'6", and but there's another guy in the league that I think of when I see him, and it is Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas, 6'3", around the same size as 220, 225 pounds, something like that. But he only ran a 4.57 at the combine, and he led the league in receptions and yards last year. I think he led in both. And he is obviously a fantastic player in the league, and he went in the second round because of similar things. As far as not a lot of speed, good size and everything, but they didn't know how it would translate, like in playing against obviously NFL corners. Like, will he translate? And obviously that did. I think this guy can as well. And he also, just for fun facts about him, a lot of people are figuring out he's actually an extremely smart dude and also extremely multi-talented dude. So he can solve a Rubik's Cube in under a minute. And he's also bowled 2 300 games in his lifetime. So 2 perfect games in bowling. And so everybody's saying that when this guy puts his mind to something, he perfects it. He tries to do his best to perfect what he is doing at all times. So this, I think, is an A grade, and Haskins needs another weapon. Here's the big guy we were talking about when we were talking about Antonio Gibson. This guy's, I think he's going to be legit, and I think he's going to be a weapon for us, especially in a fourth round. A, probably could even have been an A plus, to be honest. Great pick. I love Antonio Gandy Golden. Antonio Gandy, AGG, they're calling him AGG. All right, now we're moving on to the second half of the draft. We had 8 picks in this draft, so those are the first 4, and here's the back half. Now, the back half, I'm going to tell you up front, I didn't like as much as the first 4. The first 4 really made this draft for us. But we're going to start with Keith Ismail. Keith Ismail from San Diego State. Got my results. He ran a 5.34. If he was running 4.34, then that would change a lot of things. No, 5.34. So he's not a true speedster, but he did have a 4.65 shuttle, which was good for 5th at the combine. So he's got some quickness to him, and he's 6'3", 309, and he's all right. He was pretty good in college as far as he was, according to Pro Football Focus, he ranked number 1 in centers in pass blocking, and he was number 11 in run blocking. You watch him, and you don't see the big huge push. You don't see him manhandling people. You don't see him doing a lot as far as being an overpowering center. So I don't see this guy being a center for us where he you're 4th and 1 and you go a QB sneak up the middle and he gets a bunch of push and then it helps the QB through. He's not that kind of guy. But I'm giving this a C plus, and the plus is for some versatility. So he could be some because he also played guard in college. He played center all his senior year, but he played guard in his junior year. So he could play along the interior of the line. And we do have a left guard need. Some depth at center, which is good. And C is about an average. It's an okay pick. I'm not really upset about it or anything, but I'm also not excited about it. So the plus comes from he does have some versatility, which is good, so he can play along the line. And that's Keith Ismail. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully he can play for us and he gets some quality stuff. But right now I think he's just a backup. I think he's going to be fighting to make the team. It's his good backup who could become starter. So, I don't know. I'm not thrilled with this pick, as I said. So, that is Keith Ismail. So I gave it a C plus. All right, now we got Khaleke Hudson. Khaleke Hudson is a safety linebacker combo. He played at University of Michigan, where they called it the Viper role, which is that linebacker safety combo. He's 5'11", 224. He did have a 30 bench press, which he shows some strength, so that's good. And 4.56 40 time is not bad, especially for 225 for a linebacker. That's pretty good speed. That's not bad. It's not blazing, but it's not bad. He had huge production in 2017. He had 6 tackles for loss, where he had one game he had 8.5 tackles for loss. He also had 7.5 sacks, 2 picks, 9 pass deflections, and 2 forced fumbles in 2017. I didn't have his tackles number overall. I can't remember, but good production out of his sophomore season, but then fell off. He only had 3 tackles for loss the next 2 seasons, so 6 total, but 3 apiece. Only 1 sack in 2018 and 1.5 sacks in 2019. He did have 101 tackles last year, which is good, so he is swarming the ball. So it does seem like he's a good guy to have on special teams probably. And he was one of his worst grades was his pass coverage. He was okay. It was just one of his worst qualities. So he's not necessarily huge, like a great cover guy either. But he does have some intangibles, so he could potentially play for us on third downs, because he's not going to be an all-down linebacker. That's for sure. He gets beat up in the run game People just manhandle him. He's too small for that position. Um, and then he played more like the Viper was more of like a strong safety role. So obviously Landon Collins has that wrapped up, where Landon Collins will be our strong safety. So it's kind of like a more of a depth pick, which that's usually what you're going to get out of the fifth round anyway. So it's not like you're going to get some huge star. But after last year's draft, you were so excited. Like you saw some really good potential late in the draft. You had Cole Holcomb in the fifth. You had Kelvin Harmon in the sixth. Jimmy Moreland in the seventh. Like you were hoping for more picks like that. And I don't think that this guy is necessarily like one of those guys. I don't think he's going to have a huge role on defense, especially not out the gate. Maybe he can come into it later in his career, but definitely not somebody next year you're going to be like, oh, Khalil Huxton, we're so excited about him. I see him being a special teams player for us. He could be on all special teams, and so I think that's where you'll see him mostly is on special teams next year, and then hopefully grow into. He probably have to gain some weight, put some good weight on to play in that line like a weak side linebacker role potentially, but the safety thing, I'm just not thrilled with the pick. I gave it a C, average pick. I don't think it's going to be anything game changing, and that's where I left it at. All right, now we got Cameron Curl from Arkansas, 4.6 40 time. So he's a safety, but he's also played some corner, so he has some versatility. That's what we really focused on this draft was versatility. As I said, Khalil Huxton, linebacker safety. You had Keith Ishmael, center guard. You had Sadiq Charles. You had him left tackle and guard and right tackle. Obviously, Antonio Gibson's a Swiss Army knife. You can play him everywhere. And so continuing that theme, we have Cameron Curl as a safety corner. And he's a decent size corner, 6'1", 206. That's a good corner size. Not blazing speed at 4.6. He did have a good 24 reps on the bench press. When you start seeing corners and things like that get over 20, I mean, that's a good number. And he could be a potential good safety for us to cover the tight end role because he does have some corner experience, and he has enough size where he can run with the big boys like that. So I gave it another C. He's another special teamer. Nothing too exciting here, and we'll see where this goes with him. Watching him, you don't see somebody that's like a standout player. So again, I think this was a seventh round pick. A lot of seventh round picks don't make the squad anyway, but we did get Jimmy Moreland out of there, and I don't think this guy's going to be even as good as Jimmy Moreland. All right, so that's a C from Cameron Curl. On to the last pick of the draft, James Smith Williams, defensive end out of NC State. 265, so 6'4", 265, running a 4.6 40 and 28 reps on the bench. So he had pretty good intangibles coming out of the combine. But this reminds me of the throwaway pick last year in Jordan Brailford, but honestly worse because this guy is extremely injury prone. He's only played one full season out of I think he played 5 years of college actually, and he only played one full season out of that. This is just funny to me. He even cut himself while doing his vertical at the combine. So just weird stuff like this. The injuries just seem to find him, and I just don't see much coming from this pick. And we have so much on the defensive line already. This guy is going to be struggling to make the team. I gave this pick a D because honestly, I don't think he's going to make the team. I don't think we're going to get anything out of him. And I just feel like it was a throwaway pick like Jordan Brailford last year that, you just kind of taking a shot at another D end with some good intangibles and see what happens. But we just have so much there. I don't see us actually ever utilizing him. So I would have liked to see somebody else but I don't know who else. I don't have like somebody that I would have picked over him for sure. But I guess you could have picked the guy that you ended up getting in the undrafted free agents in Moss, Thaddeus Moss, that would have been a better pick, I think. I mean, why risk him getting picked by somebody else? Because we didn't have like one of the last picks, so there were still 20 some odd picks after us. So we could have, why not uh, taken a what do you call it? A tight end. We need tight ends. Thaddeus Moss was there. Clearly, you wanted him anyway. He was somebody that you got after the draft. I don't think this guy would have been drafted. You could have got him later too. But honestly, I just think it's a throwaway pick, not a great pick, and that's why the back half I was just not thrilled with. So overall, I'm giving us like a B plus grade. So we had a good draft because when you have Chase Young, your draft starts in an A, right? Like you're gonna have a great player, at least one, when you draft Chase Young. So that's awesome. And as I said, I like the first 4 picks, which is the most important. That's where you get the highest value. So when you get your first through 3 rounds is really important. 4th round is right there on the edge. Like if you can hit on your first 4 picks, that's a good thing. So I think that's why I gave him a B plus range, somewhere in there. I do have down B. I crossed out the plus, so I'm gonna say a B grade. As I said, you're just not going to get the Cole Holcomb, the Kelvin Harmon, and the Jimmy Moreland you got last year and later in the drafts. And then also like in years past with the Sean Dion Hamilton was a great pick. Who else did we get later? Oh, Chase Rouillet, I believe, was a 5th-round pick. And he's our starting center, getting some good quality stuff out of him. So I just don't see you're getting that much out of the later picks, which is why I lowered this grade down to a B. You were on fire after the first 4. As a Redskins fan, we were crushing it, I thought, in the first 4 picks. And then after Keith Ismail, it really started to go downhill for me. And that's why I'm giving him a B. But it's going to be exciting. Hopefully we have a season. Hopefully this corona mess clears up and we have a season. And it'll be fun to watch these guys grow. I think my favorite pick out of this was the Gandy Golden. Looking into him, this guy could be, he could be a Michael Thomas. Like, he has legitimately all the traits that Michael Thomas has. There's no real reason why this guy cannot be a Michael Thomas. And if we get a Michael Thomas out of the 4th round, so hopefully that works out. And that is the wrap up for the 2020 NFL Draft for the Redskins, B grade, and I will see you guys next time.